At dawn, the church bells began softly tolling, heralding an unfolding saga of forbidden love and transcendent faith. In the quiet hush of early morning light, a young preacher, a man with eyes that shone with both hope and trepidation, stepped into the ancient sanctuary. His arrival, wrapped in gentle humility and determined grace, set the stage for an encounter that would forever alter the course of his life. In a secluded corner beneath towering stained glass windows, the young preacher first encountered his elder counterpart. This older man, whose years had etched wisdom and compassion into every line of his face, possessed a serene resolve that had endured decades of struggle. Their eyes locked in a silent communion, igniting a spark that was as unexpected as it was undeniable. In that charged moment, the sanctuary transformed into a confidant, the building itself holding its breath for a love that defied convention. Both men, bound by a calling to shepherd souls and a yearning for spiritual truth, found solace in one another. Quiet smiles turned into shared glances loaded with meaning. They spoke in hushed tones, exchanging heartfelt words and secret dreams, knowing well that the union they nurtured would be met with scorn and resistance from those who adhered to rigid dogmas. Every whispered prayer, every trembling admission, was both an act of rebellion and a declaration of existence. The congregation, steeped in tradition and shadowed by long-standing beliefs, soon began to murmurs of discontent. Whispered doubts and sideway glances became common as the community learned of the relationship. Gentle hearts started to harden. Old prejudices resurfaced like memories unwilling to fade. The young preacher's tender rebellion challenged the familiar order, and the old preacher found his faith questioned by those who had once lauded his wisdom. The tension crept through the halls of the ancient church, a reminder that the path of love is never free from obstacles. In the early days that followed their secret meeting, the lovers found comfort in the quiet hours of twilight. They strolled through empty corridors of the parish, speaking softly about dreams of a future where love and acceptance reigned. Their union was a meditation, a reverent defiance against hate. They remembered that every great challenge carried within it the seeds of transformation. Still, beneath these moments of tender intimacy lurked the looming threat of a community divided by fear. As whispers grew louder and suspicion turned into overt disapproval, acts of defiance multiplied. Congregation members, voices trembling with righteous indignation, began to rally against the union. They questioned the authenticity of the love shared between these two preachers, branding their feelings as sacrilege against a centuries-old tradition. The church hall, once a sanctuary of mercy and forgiveness, now resonated with accusations and heated debates. Every sermon became a battlefield where ideology clashed with the raw truth of human emotion. The young preacher wrestled with inner turmoil. His heart, swollen with passion, beat a desperate tattoo against a culture of condemnation. In moments of solitude, he questioned whether the path chosen by love was a righteous one, or if it carried a weight too heavy for a tender spirit to bear. His doubts, though earnest and genuine, only deepened his resolve to embrace the love that had so unexpectedly taken root. In his eyes, every trial was an invitation to trust in a higher calling, a call that spoke of transformation and redemption. The elder preacher, too, found himself entangled in a battle of faith. His life had been a tapestry of joy and suffering. His ministry had seen both miracles and heartache. Now, standing at the precipice of scandal, he recalled lessons learned over decades of quiet endurance. The fire of his spirit did not waver even as the congregation's scorn threatened to consume him. In his measured words and steadfast prayer, he sought a way to reconcile tradition with the transcendent truth of love. His faith, though tested by external hostility, was rooted in the conviction that there is wonder in every human heart. The struggle escalated as community leaders called for a public forum to address the uncanny bond between the preachers. The meeting was held on a chilly autumn evening, when the wind seemed to carry the voices of the past and the future in one breath. Under the heavy gaze of questioning eyes, the two preachers stood together at the pulpit, a symbol of both transgression and hope. The atmosphere was dense with tension, murmurs filled the vast space, and anger simmered beneath the surface of every whispered objection. In those fraught minutes, the familiar sanctuary became a crucible for a truth that could no longer be denied. The congregation, steeped in traditional rituals and wary of change, found itself at a crossroads. The faces in the pews, once gentle and familiar, now reflected the hardened lines of fear and disbelief. Accusations of sacrilege and betrayal filled the air, each word a lash against the undeniable bonds of love. The young preacher's heart pounded in defiance, and the elder's voice trembled as he spoke of redemption, a universal call for understanding and grace. At the crescendo of hostility, as the threat of expulsion loomed like a dark cloud overhead, an unanticipated miracle shattered the oppressive tension. A brilliant light, as if summoned by divine hands, swept through the sanctuary and embraced every trembling soul. For a moment, time became fluid and the rigid world of human prejudices seemed to dissolve. The air grew still, and every heart, no matter how embittered, felt the unmistakable presence of a power beyond mortal understanding. In that sacred instant, the miracle became a clarion call for unity. The light was not merely a natural phenomenon, but a declaration from the divine that love, in its myriad forms, was the truest manifestation of faith. The congregation, awestruck and transformed, experienced a collective awakening. Centuries of suspicion and animosity melted away in the face of a miracle that vindicated the lovers. The divine intervention whispered that the heart's calling was more potent than man's fears. After that profound moment, the church hall fell into a reflective silence. The miracle, with its ethereal radiance, had redrawn the boundaries of acceptance. In hushed voices, even the most skeptical members began to speak of hope and transformation. The young preacher and his elder counterpart, still clasping each other's hands, stood as symbols of a love that transcended every barrier. Their journey, marked by trials and resistance, had arrived at an unexpected communion of souls, a communion blessed by the grace of a higher power. In the days that followed, news of the divine sign spread far beyond the walls of the once divided sanctuary. People from distant communities, drawn by the allure of a love that dared to defy convention, came to witness the place where miracles had taken form. Some recalled headlines of progressive change. The United Methodist Church, in May 2024, had boldly opened its doors to LGBTQ clergy, an act mirroring the transformative truth unfolding in that very church. Others remembered Beth Stroud's remarkable journey from defrocking to reinstatement, a chronicle that paralleled the redemption celebrated at this moment. Across denominations, similar shifts echoed, such as the Church of England's move to remove outdated barriers in 2025. These groundbreaking decisions in the world of faith lent credence to the miraculous events that had redefined the meaning of love and acceptance. The preachers themselves spoke not just of romance but of a deeper calling, a commitment to remind the world that the divine thrives in the heart of every person, irrespective of societal labels or prejudices. Their ministry took on a renewed purpose, a call to bridge divides and heal wounds inflicted by fear. Every sermon from that day onward resonated with the reminder that love is a sacred gift, a divine force capable of redrawing old boundaries. In every word they spoke, their voices carried a quiet revolution, each phrase a testament that faith and love can overcome even the fiercest storms of opposition. As weeks turned to months, the church slowly transformed from a sanctuary of strict tradition into a beacon of acceptance. The wounds of discord deepened into conversations of reconciliation, and the long-held dogmas began to yield under the weight of an undeniable truth. In time, hardened hearts started to soften. People began to see that love, even in its most unconventional forms, was a pure reflection of the divine mystery. The atmosphere in the sanctuary lightened. Where once there was fear and judgment, there started to grow a cautious hope, nourished by the memory of that transcendent moment of divine intervention. In the gentle glow of twilight, the sanctuary once again became a haven of heartfelt worship. The congregation, enriched by their shared journey through pain and transcendence, began to sing hymns that celebrated the beauty of love in all its forms. The rituals that were once steeped in condemnation now resonated with a new energy, a celebration of life and the courage to embrace one's truth. Every note of the hymns, every whispered prayer, testified to a miracle that had redefined the landscape of faith. As the story unfolded, the tale of forbidden love became a parable of redemption. The divine light that had once burst forth in a moment of crisis had gradually transformed into the quiet assurance of renewed faith. In every heart within those ancient walls was planted the seed of possibility, that love, even when deemed forbidden, could be the catalyst for a greater and more compassionate future. The church itself became a living testimony to the idea that barriers, built by human hands, could be dismantled by the pure, unyielding force of true love. Standing at the altar of transformation, the two preachers embodied the reconciliation of opposites. Their love, tested in the crucible of societal condemnation, emerged triumphant through a miracle that seemed to whisper secrets of eternity. Each step they took echoed the promise that faith is not a prison of dogma, but a boundless horizon of hope waiting to be embraced. Their journey, from secret glances in a hallowed hall to an awe-inspiring moment of divine unity, affirmed that every challenge faced with an open heart could blossom into something miraculous. In the quiet moments that followed the storm of controversy, the community found itself on the threshold of a new era. The lessons harvested from those turbulent days spoke not of surrender, but of conviction. They reminded everyone present that true faith is measured not by adherence to tradition alone, but by the courage to love even when that love seems to defy the established order. Every soul in the congregation, touched by the transformative power of that sacred light, began to see that the heart's silent revolution was, in fact, a herald of hope. And so, as dusk settled gently over the rejuvenated church, the two preachers remained side by side, a beacon of redemptive love in a world often blinded by fear. Their story, at once tender and fiercely defiant, resonated with a timeless truth that continues to inspire hearts today. In the luminous quiet after the storm, it became clear that the divine had not only intervened, but had chosen to write a new chapter for all who dared to follow their truth. This tale, born in the midst of strife and nurtured in the crucible of controversy, now stands as a monument to the undeniable power of authentic love. Every eye that witnessed that miracle, every heart that dared to hope, became part of a larger narrative, a narrative that challenges conventions and reimagines faith. And as the final notes of a hymn mingled with the soft murmur of renewed prayers, the message was unmistakable. Love, in its purest form, is both a blessing and a calling. Join us in exploring these transformative stories that challenge conventions and celebrate the power of love and faith.